And I'm Alex.
This
Yep. Woohoo. Sorry, I'm a little tired today. We've actually done a lot today.
we went and played in a Hearthstone tournament a little earlier today.
Yep. Yep. Did some Hearthstoning and I slept until right before uh you came over this morning. We finished a computer build that we started yesterday.
We did. It was nice. We actually have put two computers together in the last 12 hours.
Yep. So two desktops and finished one up this morning. Barely had enough time for coffee and a shower before we went out to talk business.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I can't wait to spring the news on everyone.
Oh yeah, but not quite yet. We still have a little bit going before we show everybody what's going on, but it's exciting. I'm excited.
Yeah, yeah. I,
Excited.
I see your excited face.
Yeah. It's hiding my tired face.
All right, so let's get on to the news.
All right. So just a few minutes ago, it actually was about an hour ago, um there was talk that some Steam accounts were hijacked following a security lapse, and this is actually from Luke Plunkett, uh, writing over at Kotaku, and the article is talking about over the past week, a number of Steam accounts, including some of those from prominent streamers and Dota 2, were temporarily stolen, courtesy of a hole in Valve security. The loophole, Valve says it was a bug, was fixed once the issue was brought to light, but not before many of the users complained of temporarily losing their accounts to people accessing them from other PCs. It had something to do with the lost password section of Steam support, and it looks like all the hacker needed was your account name, and they could reset your password, choose a new one, and gain access to your account with no verifications or email address needed. So where it would normally prompt you to um, so you basically you entered your account name, um, and then once you search that account name, you it took you to a screen where it says email the account recovery code to, and whatever had your email start out, and it would take you to a screen where you're supposed to copy and paste that reset code that they gave you. But all you had to do was actually just hit enter, and it would take you to a password reset without the recovery code.
Oh wow, that's a pretty big deal right there. I mean, if anybody can just do that by getting access to someone's Steam name, I mean, there are ways to do that now. I'm looking at a different article about the same issue, and this article says that it's not yet clear if SteamGuard offers sufficient protection from the exploit, as there have been some reports from users claiming that their account has been compromised even with SteamGuard enabled. So, for those of you who are not familiar with SteamGuard, SteamGuard is sort of like Valve's version of the Blizzard Authenticator.
Mm-hmm.
It's an authentication that's on your phone, and it generates a token every 60 seconds that you have to put in when you log in if you have that feature enabled.
So yeah, in their official release, Valve said to protect users, we are resetting passwords on accounts with suspicious password changes during that period or may have otherwise been affected. Relevant users will receive an email with a new password. Once that email is received, it is recommended that the users log into their account via the Steam client and set a new password. Please note that while an account password was potentially modified during this period, the password itself was sealed. Also, if Steam Guard was enabled, the account was protected from unauthorized logins, even if the password was modified. We apologize for any inconvenience. So that was actually kind of arrogant.
Yeah, it seemed like they were telling us, well, yes, we know it happened, but don't worry, we've already taken care of it, and you just go on about your day.
Right. It's like also it's like also if SteamGuard was enabled, the account was protected from unauthorized logins even if the password was modified. It's like basically just telling everybody, well, if you'd had SteamGuard like you were supposed to, then this wouldn't have happened.
Personally, I have SteamGuard. I've had it since they rolled it out, just because I've always been a two-layer authentication person. I have two layers of authentication on my Gmail, on my Battle.net. Anything, anywhere I have put a sufficient amount of money into or whatever, I want to try to protect it as best I can. So I take
Right.
advantage of the free features that are offered.
Yeah, and there was a time when WoW accounts were getting hacked left and right. So this isn't just a Steam thing. If you have an online account, chances are whoever you have that online account with, they've probably experienced this at some point. So I don't know. I don't necessarily like their response. When Blizzard responded, like they not only well, the first thing they did was isolate the accounts, and then they would ban them until they could verify what had happened. And it was like a ban for the protection of the account, so that no further modifications could be made to it. And then they would slowly reinstate those accounts by rolling them back to where they were before that period. So I guess it's kind of like having a Windows save point almost, or restore point. So I'm not sure what Steam's going to do about it, but from the sounds of it, it sounds like they're pretty much saying, well, if you didn't have Steam Guard, it's your fault.
Yeah, and this article I'm looking at here says that like you mentioned, that a majority of the affected are prominent Twitch streamers who have had their accounts hijacked and locked down. So Valve has apparently started to impose a 5-day ban on accounts that have been compromised in the incident, but it's not clear if there will be any additional consequences for those that have been affected. Some users have been worried about the possibility of VAC bans, which is Valve's anti-cheat system, as it is quite notorious for its permabans. And even in cases where users have had their accounts hijacked, Valve has typically in the past never reverted those bans once it's happened. So, if your account was hacked, somebody took control, somebody did something to get your account banned, you go to Valve and tell them your account was hacked. In the past, they've not reverted those bans. Now, that wasn't on a level like it is here, where it's obviously their fault because it was an exploit in their system. So I'm sure they would take that into consideration for this, but we'll have to wait and see how it plays out.
I don't know. It almost sounds like they just didn't. I don't know. Something about that just it kind of rubs me the wrong way. It's not, and I mean, there's no lost love between me and Steam here. You know that. But I mean, everybody goes through this, and I think it's more about how you handle it after it happens to you. Someone else recently had some hackers strike, and that was Xbox Live users had their FIFA accounts hacked. So it's an ongoing thing. There's always going to be hackers, in my opinion, and there's always going to be ways to try and stop them. But you know, I think the more things like the Steam launcher and like the Blizzard launcher and so on and so forth, I think the more you put on your computer that stores passwords and information, the more likely you are to make that account a more likely target for hackers. A lot better when they have to search to find it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Personally,
Make them work for it.
right? Because let's face it, hackers for the most part are lazy. They write the one hack, or they do the one hack, and then they hope to get the most bang out of their buck. If they have to spend more than 10 minutes on it, chances are they're moving on. Unless you've got millions or billions of dollars.
Yeah, yeah. There's that.
I mean, they're not going to get anything from my computer. If they spend more than 10 minutes to get something, they're going to move on. But if they can get something in just a couple of minutes, well, that's easy money. They'll sell it, they'll do something with it. There's ways to make money off pretty much anything virtual anymore.
That's very true. It's funny. I read an article the other day about I forget the name of the game, but you can spend real money to buy in-game like land and properties, and they were talking about this guy who spent $100,000 real cash to buy an entire asteroid in the game, and then he spent time building the asteroid up, making it like a destination place in the game, and he turned around and sold it 5 years later and made $600,000 real cash on a virtual item.
That's crazy.
All right, so next, I've got the China story, and if you guys haven't heard about this, China has lifted their video game console ban. So, approximately 15 years ago, China banned the sales of video games consoles, citing a negative effect on children who play video games. As a result, Chinese fans of PC games were not affected by the ban. They said, PC games aren't as bad as console games. Console games don't really offer anything outside of, just brain mind numbing. But rumblings inside of China starting as early as 2013 and in January of 2014 was that the ban was temporarily lifted, allowing console manufacturers the opportunity to sell consoles, but only with government approval. However, early this morning, today, July 26th, early this morning, the Wall Street Journal reported that the ban has been completely lifted, according to a statement from the country's Ministry of Culture.
Okay. So what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, it's going to allow Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo access to a whole nother piece of economic culture that they've not had access to yet. So, I mean, it's going to depend on how. I think you're looking at how much are the Chinese going to be interested in console gaming. If there's, this could be a huge boost for Nintendo if they can move in now and start selling Wii U systems to, to this country. I mean, you could see a huge boost in their profits at the end of the next quarter. Traditionally, Microsoft has not done well on that side of the world. I don't know that there will be a huge boost in Microsoft sales if China buys the way Japan does. But this could be a huge boost for both Sony and Nintendo going into the next quarter.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. And really, Nintendo is going to need the help because once again, a Nintendo feature is struggling. Did you see where they're shutting down the Wii U TV next month?
I did not. In fact, I don't own a Wii U, and I was not even familiar with the feature.
Okay, so basically, the Nintendo TV was meant to be able to let people watch a streaming service on their gamepad, um, and it just never they never quite got it to work well. Um, yeah, they tried to integrate it with all the major streaming video services. Yeah, if you had DVR saved on your TV, I think they tried to push it through. It's been a while since I've looked at the features, but it was pretty much acting like a second screen experience. And like in concept, this is a really good idea, but I'm sure that actually getting it to work was pretty difficult, and it looks like so uh, for Nintendo as well, because after about 6 months, they gave up trying to get it to work. So, um, in the official statement for Nintendo, it says after almost 3 years of finding, watching, and engaging with Nintendo TV, we will be ending the service on August 11th, 2015 at 3 p.m. Pacific time. At that same time, we will be closing the Nintendo TV Miiverse community. We sincerely thank all of you for your engagement within the community and the Nintendo TV series. We look forward to your contributions within our many other Miiverse communities. Uh, so here's a couple of things that I think people should take from this. Number one, Nintendo's on its heels, and I'm sure at this point the Wii U is hemorrhaging money. If you can't get something to work at this point after the system's been out this long, and you at this point in its technological cycle, you need to be looking ahead to the next system. So trying to get something to work for this system that's all you've already sunk a lot of money into, you've spent 6 solid months of trying to get it to work and it just isn't working, then I think it's smart to cut your losses and move on. And Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft all tried to make these consoles the center of the living room. And as cool as that may sound on the upfront, honestly, I don't think that's what the consumer really wants. Like if you were to get down and dirty and you really get down and you talk to people about what they want to have a video game console, it's probably not a multimedia center. They're probably already have these things, and they get these things when they purchase other things like their televisions or yeah. I know there's a lot of people that use their PS3 as a Blu-ray player, but that was back when Blu-ray players were like $300. Now you can get one for 75. So why put the wear and tear on your PS3? And let's just face it, have you tried to watch a Blu-ray on your PS3?
Yeah, I that for a long time that was the only way I watched Blu-ray movies.
Right. So when you wanted to do something with that movie, did you not think when you were using the controller to control through the features, this would be so much easier if I just had a controller or a remote?
Oh God, yeah, because if I remember correctly, L1 R1 was fast forward rewind and L2 R2 was skip ahead skip behind, and I can't tell you how many times I wanted to rewind something and actually ended up skipping back to the previous section of the DVD, and it was a whole pain in the ass.
Yeah, and it. I still use the PS3 to watch my Blu-rays, but every time I do it, I just remember why I hate the experience so much. Is it difficult? No. Is it cumbersome? Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And I can only imagine how cumbersome it was trying to take that and put it on a gamepad that was really meant to just play video games, mirror video games. The system's just they should concentrate on just playing video games.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this, while it sounds like another Nintendo failure, I actually think this is a smart move on Nintendo's part. Concentrate on just building, trying to get some of your customer base back and excited at the end of this game system as you drop the price, because we all know a price drop is coming. That's how these things work. So once this Wii U drops down in price a little bit more, and you get a few more people that were kind of maybe on the fence. Well, now it's dropped down enough where they might buy in, especially when it comes tax return time or Christmas time. Nintendo's Wii series generally in the past has dominated at Christmas. So now maybe with the addition of being able to that Chinese market, they drop the price a little bit, get some people in that are maybe wanting to just give it a shot, put out some nice quality solid games for this system and try to get some momentum heading into this next tech cycle.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of Nintendo moving into the next cycle, at Summer's World Festival in Chiba, Japan, this week, Good Smile, they're a toy company, showcased their new what they're calling Nindroids, based on Nintendo franchises and franchises associated with Nintendo consoles. So you're seeing like Pokemon's In and Reshiram, Fire Emblems Marth and Kata, a sword wielding Kirby wearing a Link hat, young Link from Majora's Mask, Mega Man. They're all on display, and they are little like figurines with changeable parts, cute designs. They're high quality figures, and this is kind of out there helping to push the Nintendo brands and remind people that, hey, these are the characters you grew up with and loved, and they're still there.
But they don't have any games to follow it up with, and that's part of the problem. These things are great. These little things, these little marketing employees are amazing to a demographic that they have kind of figured out on the marketing standpoint. But if you don't have something to send these people to send these customers to, if you don't have that quality gaming experience, which Nintendo was known for in the late 80s and early 90s, then all the marketing in the world isn't going to help you. I mean, does that make sense? I mean, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna push stuff, you need to have something to follow it up. Honestly, I mean, you know, like the one of the big articles on IGN right now is that there is, just recently at QuakeCon, they gave people hands-on with the new Doom multiplayer. Well, there were there were all kinds of like advertising and marketing for the new Doom game, which is still in development. But then they followed it up and gave the people at QuakeCon something to physically get their hands on and play around with, and you know it gets people excited about what's yet to come, but not here yet.
Well, and that's what these conventions are good for. They're good for that getting them that taste, getting them that little bit of stimulation that gets them excited about a product. But after a while, unless you back that up, you just don't have anything. I mean, there's no substance to what you promote, and so people start turning a blind eye to it. So it doesn't matter how many conventions you go to, or what you've got going on. It's not going to it's not going to help.
All right, so what else you got this week?
Um, well, another little interesting thing I came across was Game Informer asked readers about the best version of Batman, like who they thought was the best version of Batman. And this was a reader discussion. The article is written by Kyle Hilliard, and it's actually pretty unanimous. And this is something that you and I both agree on very strongly, and that is that the best version of Batman, whether it be video game, comic, novel, movie, or television series, is the Batman from Batman the Animated Series, with Kevin Conroy doing the voice. The art style for the time was unique. It was the first animated series to be painted on black glass, which is what gave it its very dark and moody backdrop. And the animation style, they had simplified it a little bit. I would almost say that animation at the time had become very complex, and these frames, these Batman stories, it was all about the story it was telling, and the voice acting and the unique art style was simple. Yeah, some would even say too simple, but it let the it let the watcher and the viewer really concentrate on the story and listen to those voices, and it was an immersive and all-encompassing experience, and really no other Batman, in my opinion, has ever captured that.
Well, I actually I had this conversation at work with my buddy Braga. I guess about 4 or 5 weeks ago now, and I told him, because he came to me. He was having this conversation with somebody else, and he asked me point blank, no lead up, hey, who do you think's the best Batman? And I immediately fired back Kevin Conroy, and of course he was like, oh, you're no help either. You're just crazy if you think it's anybody but Adam West. And he was like, there's not been a Batman as good as the 1966 Batman. And of course, I then led into the whole, well, there's, for me personally, it's always going to be Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill as the Joker, and Tara Strong as Harley Quinn. Those are my trinity as far as Batman characters go. Yes, Heath Ledger was fantastic as the Joker, but anytime I hear Mark Hamill in anything, I immediately think Joker.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I mean, you won't find very many fans out there of Star Wars that's bigger than I am. I mean, it's kind of, if you know me, you kind of know me as the Star Wars guy. So, um, he'll always be Luke Skywalker to me. So when I see him, I think Luke Skywalker. But when I hear him now, I hear Joker. So, now he's kind of both.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and I mean, like I said, we had this conversation at work, so we had multiple people to poll, and we got responses all the way from Michael Keaton was really high on a lot of people's lists. There were a lot of Christian Bale fans. There was even some Val Kilmer fans. The the
You mean
one
Nickelback?
No, that was George Clooney.
Was that George Clooney?
George Clooney was Nickelback. That was the one that nobody really seemed to agree on that they liked.
Was that like this? Was Val Kilmer's the super codpiece Batman then?
Yes.
Okay. I get them all confused after the second one. Because it was Kilmer, Clooney. It was just Kilmer and Clooney, right?
Uh,
Keaton did two. Kilmer did one.
No, Keaton only did the one, I believe, the 1989. Did he?
Yep. Yeah, he was in the second one as well. Second one had Danny DeVito as the Penguin and Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. Christopher Walken was in that one. Did you remember that? That was back before he was super popular.
Yeah, yeah.
So the reason I bring this up on the video game podcast is in looking at just to see how much video games have started really taking over the media market. Kevin Conroy in the animated series, 50% of the users polled agree that he's the most popular Batman. But the second most popular Batman is Batman from the Arkham Asylum series, coming in at somewhere right around 18%, if I'm reading this pie chart correctly. So I think that's pretty epic, because what's it going up against? Well, it's going up against Frank Miller's comic book Batman, which was huge. I mean, it completely changed Batman from this campy, super colorful, holy whatever Batman and bad anti-shark spray into this brooding, dark hero that had all this psychological issues going on. So that's kind of what led us into the Tim Burton, Michael Keaton Batman movies. So you've got this video game going up against Frank Miller. You got it going up against the original Batman. You got it going up against Michael Keaton's movies. And then Batman had that huge resurgence during the Christian Bale Dark Knight trilogy for the most part. That's big to come in second. I think that's number one. I think that you got to give props to Rocksteady. Kudos to Rocksteady for creating not only an awesome Batman and an awesome game, but creating an awesome Batman backdrop. You had the story, you had the voice acting, and you managed to take Batman and make him real for a completely different generation of Batman fans.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And I've played all the Rocksteady. Well, let me rephrase that. I've played all the Batman games, and they've all been absolutely fantastic. And I'm really looking forward to playing the new one. I've just not gotten it yet for a couple of reasons. One, so I have all the other ones on PS3, and I just haven't picked this one up on PS4 yet. I had originally thought about getting it on PC, and then they had all those issues right after launch, and ended up pulling the game from sale. So I've just not gotten back around to looking at getting the game on a console yet.
Right. Well, I just think that this goes to show that we talk a lot about video games and the production value that goes into them and the amount of money that you spend on them, and wondering if this is something that is needed. Do you need a movie budget to make a video game? Well, one of the things that I don't feel like we may have taken into consideration is the impact that it has when it's about a character that's already known. So, if this is correct and this is a true representation of Batman fandom in general, then all this money spent on making the Arkham Asylum series what it is well worth it, because you now have the second biggest demographic of Batman fans thinking your Batman is the Batman. They're saying your Batman is the Batman. That's a video game Batman. So I think anyone trying to make the argument that video games aren't really relevant in determining pop culture and almost popularity arcs and characters, I think you can use this to say that, yeah, video games have a say in how people perceive characters.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You know, I posted an article on Facebook last week about how relevant superheroes are to today's culture. Um, there, there was a story about a grandmother who was loading groceries into her vehicle and laid her keys down and accidentally locked her 1 year old, I guess it was a 1 year old child, in the car, her granddaughter in the car, and couldn't get in. And it was like 100 and something degrees, and she was freaking out. She called the police. The police came and busted out the back window, but the hole wasn't big enough for an adult to get through. Well, it just so happened that there was a 5 year old nearby wearing a Batman costume. He was shopping with his mom, and he told his mom, I can help, just like Batman. And so the cop put his jacket down over the broken glass. The 5 year old crawled in through the back window, unlocked the car door, and saved this 1 year old kid. And they were talking to the kid afterwards, he said, "Oh yeah, anytime I dress up like Batman, I always feel like a superhero. Today was just special."
Who can argue with that? And I mean, really, when you think about it, who are these who are these kids going to model themselves after? I mean, really, you got your sports figures who can't seem to stay out of trouble. And even when they do stay out of trouble for a short time, something always comes out about them that almost knocks them off their pedestal. You look at movie stars, it's almost the same thing. So as much as I'd like to say that I'm a great dad and and a good husband, in the end, do I want my children to look up to me? Absolutely. But I want them to look up to me to see me fail and to see me overcome those failures and be, successful in spite of my many glaring shortcomings. But superheroes and comics and superheroes in general, you actually get to see almost a world of what it would be like if you had superpowers to combat the everyday challenges of the world and the challenges that would come with having superpowers. So it's I guess to really kind of wrap it up into what I'm saying is you have reality staring kids in the face, and a lot of times they don't understand what's going on when things happen. They don't know all the circumstances, so they don't always get to see why you make the decisions that you make, even if you are a good role model. But they certainly see what happens when things don't go your way. In comics, you get to see inside the characters' heads. You get to see what they're thinking, and you get to see how they handle these issues, and you get that third person point of view that it's a problem that they can understand, even if it's an unrealistic problem. So I think it really helps them in good decision making. If they're reading the right comics, I think it can help mold them into making decisions for the right reasons.
Yeah, unless they're reading Deadpool and then he's giving it to you in the first person point of view.
Yeah, like I said, reading the right comics. I mean, I am not terribly censor dad. You know, they can play the video games they want. They can watch the TV shows they want. They can read they can read the comics or read the books that they want, because I feel like up until this point I've given them a good enough moral backbone that they can start making their own decisions. Do I want them to grow up and have the same morals that I do? Of course I do. Every parent does. But in the end, they have to make their own decisions. I would rather give them the tools to make their own decisions rather than dictate their decisions and not give them the tools. And then when they get out of the house, they go and make decisions based on what they think I would want them to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's also one of the things I really love about video games, and it's one of the things that I've always felt like video games brought to the table: adaptive thinking, strategic thinking, a decision making. You have to make decisions, you have to make them quickly, and you have to live with the consequences of those decisions. So,
All right, so I don't have anything else to talk about this week.
well, kudos to your play today, Hearthstone tournament. We've both been out of the meta for a while.
My big
I
one
think,
in three.
well, I think we both did really well considering we've not been in the meta. So, for me, I think it's a big deal to, I think it's a big deal to be able to come in and just play.
And that's one of the great things about Hearthstone is anybody can just pick it up and play and be competitive.
Right. And so we've watched our Heroes tournaments. We got another Heroes tournament coming up, but the Hearthstone tournaments are going to be starting up soon, and I had a blast watching them last year, so I can't wait to watch them again this year.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it as well. So
Now, last year I had a lot more time to watch them. So this year is going to be a challenge to get all the games in, but
yeah,
I don't know.
last year I was coming home from work after the tournaments and finding you sitting at your table with complete lists of decks that were being played by the big players.
Yeah, I could have just gone online and looked them up, but I'm a pen and paper guy when it comes to that kind of stuff. I write it down so I can remember it, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about Hearthstone by watching those guys play. Um, I had years of Magic experience uh, going in, so this was learning how the game was different. And yeah, I mean, yeah, the Magic experience helped, but it's like Dota experience coming into Heroes. Yeah, it's the same, but it's also very different.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And we don't need another Dota, so
No, and we
that's
didn't. And we don't need another Magic, so I don't want Hearthstone to be another Magic. If I want to play Magic, I just play Magic. If I want to play just any other MOBA, I would play Dota or I'd play League of Legends. I like the fact that Heroes is different. I like that it's simpler. I like that the games are faster. Same with Hearthstone. I like that it's simpler. I like that the games are faster for the most part. I mean, I've been in some Magic tournaments and Magic games where they just lasted forever, and then I've been in some where they're done in 5 minutes. It's the same as Hearthstone, but in general, the bulk of Hearthstone games go faster than the bulk of Magic games.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, all right.
All right, sir. Well, have a good week, and we, like I said, we talked about exciting news today. More of that to come, and I guess that's it for me too.
All right, guys. Until next time, I'm Patrick.
I'm Alex.
Good gaming.